government pulled out. The government didn't give a crap about this machine. The only thing they wanted were good tables, and when it got too expensive, they figured they could hire a bunch more people to double check their tables. Babbage and his engineer had a falling out. The bad attribute, he had a hard time getting along with people. Then Babbage had moved on to the analytical engine. Another one of my ADHD hypotheses. He got bored with this thing. He had it all designed. He knew it would work. And instead of proving that it would work, he moved on to something else. Same thing with difference engine number 2. I couldn't find that the British government even got involved with it. This was at the end of his life, and he died a very disappointed person because none of these big machines turned out, but he did a lot of other things besides this. Now we get to the analytical engine, which is basically a computer. It could do everything our modern computers could do. It was programmable. Its architecture was a lot like ours. And again, the reason it never got done, because he had inadequate funding, didn't have the money to pay machinists to build all these parts. Remember, all these parts were being handmade and chiseled out of brass, steel, iron. The analytical engine itself would have been driven by steam. This one, I've changed in my other one. Instead of importance of the analytical engine, I said Babbage as forefather for modern computers. These are reasons why he can lay that claim. First one is he had a logic unit, or an arithmetic unit, a logic unit that ran the whole thing. In his example, he called that a mill, because it was using looms for his example, so he called it a mill, a weaving mill. He had memory, which was punch cards in the state of the different gears inside the machine. He had input, which were done on punch cards. He had output, which was either a printer, or it could also be the plates that would go to the printers to get done. The printer was basically, you would arrange things, and then it would get swiped, and then the page would flip on top of it. He also, like I said, he had programs. This nice lady is Ada Lovelace, or Anastasia Ada King, Countess of Lovelace. She actually was a partner of Babbage's, all this stuff. She wrote the cards, made the programs to make this thing work. And in fact, if any of you know, and I know Mary knows, the Ada programming language, which was a big DoD, Department of Defense initiative back in the 80s to have one language for all our stuff to be built off of, and they designed it that way, and it totally failed, was named after Ada. So why do I think maybe Charles Babbage is nothing but a bachelor, lovable great uncle to the modern computer? Well, first of all, none of his machines got actually built. The ones that got built were built in memory of him later. The second reason is I could not find in all the references of the modern computer forefathers, Alan Turing, John Ashcroft, and John Van Neumann. This John Van Neumann happened to be the guy who designed the architecture of the computer. I could not find anywhere where they said, yeah, I went back and I read some of this guy's stuff and I figured I could turn it into electronics instead of mechanical. So there's no, as far as I could tell, there's no forefather of the modern computer system that even knew anything about Babbage. So the discussion questions that are in your pages: is Babbage's credit as a computer, is Babbage credit as a father of computer science correct? That's something I want you to think about, maybe do a little research on your own. And the other reason I think maybe, my hypothesis, maybe he isn't, what was happening, and this is something I want you to answer right now, what was happening between 1935 and 1950? What was going on worldwide then? World War II and the post-World War II. Us and the Brits were very close. The Germans were our enemies, and you think the PR machine might have taken off to give this guy back into history some credit instead of a guy who, because Van Neumann actually left Germany at the beginning of the war and helped on the Manhattan Project. Maybe they just didn't feel like giving him credit for it. What could What could have helped Babbage win the title outright, Father of the computer? And what do you think could have helped him clearly? Could this have helped Babbage with the current title? You know, the fact that World War II is going on, could that have helped him get the title? And the second, or the last question in here, what do you think could have helped him to do this? I mean, maybe if he built one of the machines, maybe? There's actually a book that Mary loaned me about what if, it's a science fiction book, what if the machine was actually built? What would things have looked like about now? My sources are a book and then a nice website I found on Charles Babbage, and here's all my photography sources. And the reason I'm